Hey, how's it going? My name's Sephiros, and today I'm going to be showing you a really cool technique that I learned from working with hardware modular, applied in the best soft synth ever, Phase Plant. So, basically, it's a technique using audio rate modulation. And if you don't know about what that means, think FM synthesis. That's audio rate modulation to the pitch of an oscillator. Think ring mod or amplitude modulation. That's audio rate modulation to the volume of a signal. But you can give audio rate modulation to something like a filter cutoff. Audio rate modulation to something like the drive on a distortion, a wavetable position. Audio rate modulation of the frequency of a phaser. Really, the limitations are in place, I think, in soft synths mainly just because it takes a lot of CPU, maybe? I don't know. I really don't know why this is not more accessible. But I'm going to show you a workaround. I'm going to show you how to get some crazy different sounding sounds than your typical FM synthesis or whatever. So it does involve some resampling and stuff, but I think it's worth it to get some of these timbres. So let's experiment a little bit, and I'll show you some patches and ways to do this in Phase Plant. So let's go. So I have a Phase Plant here. And we can think of these oscillators as modulators, right? Because they have a modulation output. So if I put this below the output, I'm not going to hear it. If I mute this top oscillator and I play a note, there's nothing coming out. So what that means is that I'm using this as a modulator source. So I could modulate a few things, like obviously the phase. So yeah, we've all done that. So you can modulate the pitch and the audio, but you can't modulate the wavetable position, right? But what we can do is we can modulate these effects in here. So what we have is just distortion and filter, right? So if I have a saw wave and I have a filter, I could maybe put a distortion after it. It's a great sound. So listen to how this sounds when I do audio rate modulation. You can listen to it with the Bandpass. And if I start to change the pitch like I would if I were doing FM synthesis, so that's all well and good, but what if I want to do something like audio rate modulation on the wavetable position? So what I could do is I could turn an LFO into an oscillator. And the way to do that is just to create an LFO and turn the speed all the way up. So we're at 50 hertz, right? And 50 hertz is audio rate. If you look at an EQ, basically the lowest possible thing that you can hear is somewhere around 20 hertz to 10 hertz, 20 hertz, somewhere around that range. So 50 hertz will be audible. If I take this modulator and I go to the phase, or maybe it'll be easier to tell on the pitch, so I'll do it to the pitch a little bit. So you can see it turns into a tone. Your ear stops perceiving it as the pitch going up and down, and you start hearing like a new harmonic, maybe around 28 hertz or something. And there's these sweet spots as you sweep through the speed. So what we can do is go in here and treat this kind of like a wavetable, and we can draw in something that's happening a bit faster. So maybe we do something like this, so that it's still doing kind of a sine wave thing, but it's going a lot faster, right? Because there's more dips, more arcs here. And this should help us get faster LFO, if you think about it. But you see, this is not going to track with a key, so it's not really going to be playable. So what we need to do is kind of just get a sound that we like and then resample it. So I'll show you some cool audio rate stuff on something other than the pitch. So let's try like the wavetable. So that's sounding pretty cool. Let's try some different wavetables now. I'm liking that. So let's maybe add something cool like a distortion. So let's try doing audio rate modulation to this bias knob. This bias knob on the fold back, on the sine fold distortion, moves the waveform up and down with a DC offset to create more folding on the positive or the negative part of the waveform, depending on if you push the bias right or left. So if we modulate that, we'll get another movement in the harmonics. So you can hear some aliasing, and that could be avoided if we had an option in phase plant for oversampling, which would be really nice, but unfortunately we don't. So the aliasing is something you're just going to have to embrace if you want to do this in phase plant, but I'll show you another synth that you can do this in a more cleaner way after. I just want to show you in phase plant because I think it's pretty cool. So let's try something else. Let's try phaser or flanger. Flanger. So let's try it on the depth so that it comes in and out super fast. Maybe on the delay time too. Let's try a nonlinear filter with tubular mode. And let's do some audio rate on the cutoff. Okay, let's do a delay. And with this delay, I like doing a more convoluted delay setup, but I'm just going to do simple setup because I'm trying to save on the CPU here. So maybe on the time, so we'll do audio rate on the time. Cool. We could maybe even do audio rate modulation on the pan. Alright, let's try another effect. What do we got that's cool? Could try it on the bit crush. What about audio rate modulation of the cutoff on the bit crush? Let's try like another distortion. Maybe Faturator actually. Let's see what Faturator sounds like. Hold on, let me remove this cat real quick. What? You hungry? Come here. Gee, seems like no matter how much I feed that cat, he's still hungry. So you can see if I play other notes, sounds like garbage, but I've designed it for this note specifically. And since the cycle is pretty much tuned up, I like tuned up the cycle, I can go in and start messing with this shape and it'll change the sound. So, one thing that can be fun to do is to map a macro to the amount of modulation on all these different modulation parameters. So you just go around and click this little yellow star on all kinds of this stuff. So we can go through and do this, and then what that means is we'll be able to control the amount of overall modulation. And this is useful no matter what type of patch you're making, it's just cool to have an overall modulation knob. And then you can modulate that knob like a macro. So now that we have that, we can like turn up. So maybe it'd be cool to have like a random set to unipolar and then just modulate this knob and record the output. So yeah, I'll just record that. Maybe put a little bit of decapitator on the end just to crunchify it. And then maybe also do a utility to just control the stereo image on the sub. So yeah, I'll just set this to sample that. Alright, so then you can just save that page or that patch or just delete it. So, you can get some pretty cool sounds. I guess I was going for more of like a bass sound there, but you can get some pretty interesting like effects, noises and stuff. So maybe we'll try to do another patch where it's just kind of like something a bit more crazy. Wavetable. Let's just make our own wavetable. Yeah, there we go. So let's see. Let's get kind of a looping volume shape on this so that we have some spaces in between the hits. And I'll just use a sine wave, map it to the shift. And then speed it up and then get it to be kind of in one of those sweet spots. So another cool thing to do in this audio rate LFO is you can do some cool stepped stuff. So if we increase the grid to like 24, we can get some nice little like step sequences going. Something like that. So let's try like something like a delay or something. Comb filter. What if we modulated the speed of this? Could maybe just very slowly and slightly modulate the speed of this audio rate. gonna draw a different wavetable and then blend between the two. Kind of going for like a cool pad here. Just do a crossfade and then modulate that. Yeah, so that has some like crazy, like there's no other way to make these kind of crazy sounding, super stereo, weird sounding sounds without a lot of audio rate modulation. Alright, so that's a bit of kind of maybe pads and effects type beat or type sounds. So a couple different types of sounds there, and so yeah, that's like some cool things you can do with the with audio rate and faceplant. And then obviously that probably the best software for doing this kind of thing is going to be Vcv Rack, but Vcv Rack can't be loaded into the DAW yet, so I'll grab something like voltage modular. And modular is just a bit easier to do this kind of thing with. So let's go for an oscillator. So we'll use one oscillator and another oscillator. And one of our oscillators will be kind of our modulation oscillator, and the other one will actually hear, and then I guess get a filter, VCA, and a couple like effects. So go amp, get a couple of these VCAs. They're called amplifiers, voltage controlled amplifiers. So we'll need a couple of those. Let's see what kind of filters we got here. Maybe like an all pass filter, notch filter, ladder filter, bandpass filter. All right. Envelope generators. We'll need a couple of these. So I think we'll put these kind of modulators down here. Filters can go up here after the oscillator, and we can use a couple of these amplifiers. Okay, and then effects. So processors. Indent is like a distortion. Wave shaper, another type of distortion. This little lo-fi plugin. Got some bit crushing in there, I think. A comb filter. And some sort of flanger maybe, or time-based effect. Like a delay. PSP delay. Whatever this is. Alright, so we'll put like some of the delays down here. We might not even use all this stuff. I'm just grabbing stuff. So, yeah, so we can go in and we can close this library now. I'll actually put an envelope up here too, just because it's closer to the top. So we'll squeeze an envelope in right here. And yeah, so you take the gate from the CV sources, and we'll go into the gate input on the envelope, and then the envelope can control the CV on the amplifier. We'll take the audio out of one of these oscillators, go into the amplifier, and then into a filter, into another filter, I don't know, into the distortion. No, let's go into the delay first. So input, and then let's go from the delay into the distortion, and then the distortion into the output. So we should be able to hear. Okay. So I'm just going to put a limiter after this just in case things get crazy. So next thing is to take the pitch and go into the pitch CV of our oscillator. And same thing with this other oscillator. So this oscillator we can now use to modulate stuff at audio rate. So let's go and do our bandpass filter cutoff. So let's modulate the frequency. Let's turn the feedback down a bit more on our delay, and then let's modulate the time with the, I guess, the negative output. So we'll do the CV, the time CV, and then there's this little attenuator so you can adjust the amount. Is this limiter not working? So we can maybe modulate that with the audio rate. So if you click one of these holes, it'll open up more holes. So you can do something like this to the freak mod. So yeah, now I'll start adding like some slower modulation. So maybe another oscillator and this super oscillator. Oh, there's super LFO. So we can start sending this to stuff. So maybe the cutoff here. Where Here's the output. LFO output. Go into the filter cutoff. So there's a reason why I got all these extra amplifiers out. I'll go and do that first and then into the frequency mod. That way I can control the amount here. So you could maybe modulate the gain of the distortion with the fast LFO. So that's pretty cool sound. Audio rate modulation on a ton of stuff. So yeah, audio rate modulation to the cutoff frequency on 3 different filters, including this comb filter. We got the audio rate modulation on the gain going into the distortion. And yeah, just using amplifiers to attenuate the volume of the audio rate modulation before it goes in. And then we're using a slower modulator to modulate some stuff. We could maybe modulate some more stuff with this, like the shape of the source oscillator, maybe from square to triangle. Or maybe from square to more rounded. So another thing we could do is to keep this as a playable synth, because that's the cool thing about using these modular plugins, is that you don't have to like bounce the audio out to use it. You can actually just use it as a patch if you want. So we have the pitch going into our oscillators. It could be cool to have our oscillators track the filters as well. So with this ladder filter, we can go into the modulation input, and then we can also go into the bandpass filters. Yeah, we'll do like a rough track. It's not going to track perfectly. So yeah, let's try that. But one of the best ways to really get the most out of these patches often is to just resample it. Yeah, so I like doing that where I'll just like tweak the patch and record it. So then we have like a bunch of effects. So now I can just delete that old patch and have all my CPU back. And then I have like all this material. So a lot of times when I want to make some more experimental type bass music or something, I'll do this first before I even start the track, so that I just have a heap of like new stuff to pick through. And I really like I really like a lot of the results that I get from audio rate modulation. Now, of course, if you can afford it, to build a Euro Rack system is probably the best way to experiment with this type of sound design, because you're not limited by the computer's challenge, because the computer is really challenged by this, because there's so much math that it has to do so fast to get that audio rate modulation of weird things like flangers and comb filters and stuff. I think it's pretty tough. So a lot of times the sounds sound pretty broken and not the greatest, but I think there were some cool sounds in there. But really, like, the coolest sounds that I've got when it comes to audio rate modulation are with the hardware, with the Euro Rack, audio rate modulation of analog filters, taking a sequence that's tuned to a key and then just cranking the sequencer all the way up into audio rate is a really cool sound. I could do that real quick just to show you what I mean. I'll do it in Phase Plant. This is a really cool sound. I really like this sound. So if I just start with a simple like square wave, I'll do kind of like a Nintendo. I'll do a little Nintendo melody. So I can turn this into a step sequencer by going in here, and I have some sequences. So I can map this to the pitch of an oscillator by 12. So if I mapped it to the oscillator by 12 semitones, then if I set the divisions to 12 and then turn this little magnet on, Then I can snap to quantized pitch. And I can take the magnet off and get a pitch bends like wherever I want. So then if I just crank this all the way up, oh no, I realized I wasn't on the right screen. Sounds like kind of like an old school ringtone. I love putting this over like heavy bass drops, just like this, like. So yeah, audio rate sequencers are really fun. Since I was on the wrong screen, the way I did this is I just set the LFO to 12 divisions and then put this magnet on so that I could use this step to draw in the steps. And then I mapped it to control the semitone here by 12. So if you go to map something, you can tweak it a little bit and then right click and type in your value. And if I wanted to work with 2 octaves instead of 1, I would do 24, and then I would set my step amount to 24 right here on the horizontal axis. So, boom. So yeah, there's a lot of fun to be had there, especially when you start to like modulate the speed of this. And then you go through like a delay. Yeah, so once you start mapping this pitch sequencer to other things, you get these hyper complex kind of arpeggiator things. And that in conjunction with the other audio rate thing is pretty cool. Like you could have another audio rate signal. Cool, yeah. So fun times with audio rate modulation. Try it out. There's a lot of synths that you can do it in. I guess I'll show you one more thing because you don't want to overlook this. I'm pretty sure the Ableton Lfo goes into audio rate. Now you want to be aware that you might break things when you do this, because a lot of plugins are not really designed to go into audio rate with the modulation, but you can technically put this into audio rate, and it goes again up to 40 hertz. That's it, but 40 hertz is decent. That's a decent subtone. So yeah, one of the main takeaways there, oh, and I was on the wrong screen again. I was doing it with Ableton here. So just modulating the delay. So one of the main takeaways that I've got from this technique is it sounds really cool to sweep from LFO rate into audio rate and back and forth. So if you have like an LFO and it's mapped to a ton of different effects and oscillator parameters and amounts of things, and then you just take that one knob and you sweep it up into audio rate, you get a lot of really cool results. So you could like map this Max for Live LFO to a bunch of stuff and then sweep it up, and then you could export that all out and then pitch it up. And then if you think about it, the LFO is going higher audio rate than 40 hertz because this LFO only goes up to 40 hertz like the Phase Plant LFO. But like I said, again, if you can afford to get like a simple modular case, just like a little one, and you just research first to make sure you're getting the right stuff, most oscillators have an LFO they can go up into LFO rate, and they can go from pretty slow all the way to pretty high. So there are modules that you can get where you can go all the way from like 1 hertz all the way to 40,000 hertz with a single twist. So that is the best for this kind of sound design. And soon we will be able to do it in the DAW because Vcv Rack 2 is coming out, and we'll be able to load it up in Ableton, which is going to be awesome. So I think when you start doing more crazy audio rate modulation stuff in sound design, it opens up a whole new realm of timbres and weird sounds that I don't know, you just never even knew existed before. So that's something I've been really stoked on lately. And I guess I could introduce you to one more synth. It's kind of expensive, but I'm renting it. I don't actually own it. It's the Sound Factory by Melda. And this is actually a really good synth for this kind of stuff, but it is incredibly CPU expensive. So if you go into Sound Factory Edit Generator, you can add like all these different generators, like additive, FM, and then your simple oscillators, wavetables. There's even Carpless Strong stuff in here, like physical modeling and stuff. So it has like all these different types of oscillators. Let's just choose the normal oscillator. And then if you look at the LFOs, these can go, you can turn it on sync, which is like key tracking. And then the speed of the LFO, I believe, will go well into audio rate. So let's see. Note follow frequency, and then you can set it how it follows the frequency. And then the length here. Oh, this is the sync. So without sync enabled, where's the speed? I'm still just getting my mind around this plugin. I see rate here, but it's grayed out. Maybe it has to be mapped to something. Does it have to be mapped to something? Let's try mapping it to the oscillator volume or something. What is this, LFO 2? Yeah, let's try. Okay, so it has to be mapped to something to be able to dial in the rate. So yeah, look, 20,000 kilohertz. 20 kilohertz, which is 20,000 hertz. So that's pretty high pitched. 20K, it's not 40K, but it's high enough. And all the way down to 0.001 hertz, which is like, I don't know, what is that, like an hour long to create a single cycle? So this can also be modulated. You can like create destinations. This is like, this synth is like serum on DMT and acid and ketamine and every other drug. It's like it's the craziest synth, but it's pretty deep. So, you know, you have like the oscillator, and then you have the effects page, and you can add modular effects, which means you can like add little modular environments within each one of these squares. It's just like the most insane modular synth ever. But I'll probably do my own tutorial for that one. But yeah, that one's a little bit more advanced. I think it's like $200 or $300 or something, or 400. I can't remember, but I'm just renting to own the Melda plugins because it's like $2,500 for all their plugins, but they're really cool. So yeah, anyways, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you know what to do. Comment below, I'll answer them. If you want to connect with me personally, Patreon, Cephros 5EPHR05. Check out my music, SoundCloud, Spotify, whatever. And yeah, like and subscribe if you learned something. Try sounds, send me sounds. I want to use some of your sounds in my music. If you get inspired, and you make some cool sounds, shoot them over to me. I have a Discord, but it's pretty inactive. But yeah, if you send me a message on Patreon or DM me or something, I'll send you the Discord link. So yeah, until next time, I'm Sephiros. Have a great rest of your day or night. And yeah, big up. Peace.